Hello and welcome to the first episode of season 4 of Quickies with Angela and Caity.
Hi, I'm Angela Dawn of Authentic Heart Coaching. I'm a tantric sex coach and I help couples get closer.
And I'm Caity Wilkinson of Caity Coaches. I'm a sex, love, and relationship coach on a mission to help women and their partners create a better world through women's pleasure. For today's episode, Angela and I always give a lot of thought into planning each new season of our podcast. And this year we agreed it's time to head back to our roots. As many of you know, this podcast didn't start as any old podcast. Quickies actually came from our earliest collaboration when Angela and I got together during our coach certification training, and we said, we need to make a class for men about pussy, how pussy works, what pussy needs. There's so much misinformation that's preventing good men who were very invested in their woman's pleasure, from
Mhm.
bringing her the up-leveled sexual experience that she truly deserves. That original masterclass, Pussy Whispering, has grown into an on-demand instructional video series for both men and women. But we didn't stop there. We knew there was so much more to talk about and deeper discussions to be had. So when Angela suggested we start a podcast back in 2022, it was an obvious yes. All this to say, neither Pussy Whispering nor this podcast would exist if we hadn't prioritized women's pleasure from day one. So this year, we are circling back into our roots to give you even more pussy-centric pleasure tips.
Yes, I love that pussy-centric pleasure tips. And we also talked this year about giving actual guidance, as in like leading our listeners through some practices they can try out at home. So some of our episodes for season 4 are going to feature walkthroughs and even bonus tools that you can download.
And that includes ways to solve your relationship communication problems too, because after all, communication issues are going to show up in the bedroom sooner or later.
Absolutely. And speaking of communication, one of the most important communications you can have with your intimate partners is about consent. So we're going to have our friend Cherish Amber back on the podcast in an upcoming episode to talk about consent.
Yes, I'm so excited to have Cherish with us again. We learned so much from season 3, episode 10, when we had her as a guest talking about same-sex play. And that might still be our most popular episode on YouTube.
I think it is, Caity. Yeah. And, about the podcast, really our goal here is to develop a plethora of resources for you to help you navigate your sex, love, and relationship life, kind of a pussy academy, if you will.
Love that. Pussy Academy. It's only a matter of time before we formally do make like a Pussy Whispering Academy
Yeah.
someday. So we want this entire podcast to be a complement to our comprehensive Pussy Whispering video classes about women's pleasure. If you've watched our classes, you're going to get even more benefit out of this entire podcast. And also, even if you haven't watched our classes yet, the podcast gives you tips and information that you can use right now on your journey to becoming a more well-versed partner in high-quality intimacy, as in what makes a pussy absolutely purr.
And if you're a fan of our podcast and you love women, or you are a woman and you haven't taken the Pussy Whispering video course, I think I need to say giddy up.
So the idea behind men taking pussy whispering is that there are two pieces to the puzzle of loving a woman. You can show up, for example, as the most skilled lover on earth, but if you don't understand the inner workings of a woman's mind and her emotional world, you're going to fall flat. That
Mhm.
disconnection will be obvious to her. She's going to be able to feel it, and that's a huge turnoff. And if you're already incredibly attuned and you're a really understanding partner, but you don't necessarily know how all of her sexual anatomy works and the best techniques that are specific to her body and how that's going to differ from what your body is used to, your loving presence won't be enough to also satisfy her in bed.
Mhm.
And I guarantee there are specific techniques that you're not doing, but you should be. Her body needs that. And you're never going to see that in porn. You know,
Definitely not. Definitely
you
not.
need you need information that was completely skipped in your sex education if you want to be the absolute best that she's ever had in bed. And that's both the physical elements and the mental and emotional elements. It's a comprehensive class for anybody who loves women.
Yes, those 2 points that you just made about Pussy Whispering, Caity, are really the basis of our theme for the podcast this year. emotionally conscious pleasure, as in an emotional awareness and connection during intimacy, like not just the physical felt experience we think of. When couples master this, their intimacy is like that much more satisfying.
Yes, because as we know, women are highly attuned to the inherent emotions of sex, and we thrive on emotional connection in the bedroom. It's one of the best turn-ons there is. So we think this is going to be our deepest and most satisfying season yet.
Yes,
And
definitely.
actually, next month's episode marks our 50th Quickies episode. So we are
Amazing.
starting off with special guests who are going to share with us about the experience of receiving couples coaching.
I am so excited for next month when we're going to get into what couples coaching is really like. I know a lot of people are curious about what actually happens in couples sessions with a sex coach. So that's going to be a very illuminating episode. And then in March, we're going to talk about a serious libido killer, and that is the fear of unwanted pregnancy. So we'll be talking about ejaculating responsibly.
In April, we're going to be offering guidance on how to awaken your erotic energy.
That's just the warm up. That's like the springtime warm up. And for the summer months, we're going to launch a summer of loving communication. So, talking about consent, using iMessages, holding space for big emotions, having difficult conversations with your partner, and also the practice of conscious uncoupling.
And later on in the year, we'll be offering more guided practices like Taoist breast massage.
I am pretty excited to be getting this fourth year of Quickies off the ground, Katie.
Me too.
So there you have it. Like we hope you'll turn in oh gosh, tune in all
Turn
year.
on, tune in.
Turn on, tune in, right? We hope you'll turn on all year by tuning in with us at Quickies to enhance your pleasure.
And that's all for this episode of Quickies with Angela and Caity. Thank you for listening, and please follow us and leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
And if you'd like more great information on sex, love, and relationships, be sure to follow us on social media too. You can find me on the web at AuthenticHeartCoach.com or on Instagram at AuthenticHeartCoaching.
And you can find me on CaityCoaches.com as well as on Instagram at CaityCoaches.
And I want to let everybody know that I've got something coming in hot. There is a virtual program for couples that I'm going to be running along with two other fantastic sex, love, and relationship coaches. And it is a virtual bed-in. So the idea is that you mark off a day or two on the weekend of January 31st to February 2nd to spend some extra time in bed with your partner. And I will be leading an opening and closing ceremony for this bed-in time. And I'm partnering with a couple of other coaches, Melanie Bonk and also Olivia Dedina. And they are going to lead some fantastic tantric exercises for us all. So it's an opportunity for you to be at home and cozy in the wintertime and dip into some tantric work and see what it's like. And if you would like to have an in-person retreat rather than a virtual retreat, I do have a couples retreat in Virginia coming up in May, and I've got 2 spots left for that. So check the links below this episode to find out more about my bed-in and my couples retreats.
We also have a new freebie I want to alert everyone of. We created a digital guide for men all about unlocking your woman's fullest expression of her sexuality. It's completely free. We just ask for your email address, and you can check that out at the link in our show notes. And as always, no surprises here. Our Pussy Whispering On Demand classes for men, for women, and for couples are the crown jewel of this podcast. Learn how to have pleasure in bed like you never knew was possible, because the sex ed you've had did not teach how to have vulva-specific pleasure-oriented sex. It's very different from the penis-oriented sex that basically everybody has by default that pretty much sucks for women. Pussy Whispering will unlock newer and deeper orgasms like she's never felt before. You can learn more at pwclass.com. And with that said, we'll see you next time on Quickies with Angela and Caity.